And we're going to be offering a class in April, walking people through this, and we'll hold your hands on how to implement this yourself if you want to. So we're going to show you what we do, and we can't get into too much of how we do it on this Zoom because this Zoom is going to be recorded in public, and we have a lot of private information that we would like to keep private, but we will share that in the course that we're going to be offering. So here is your practical guide on how to AI your agency. Let's see. So we use this 4D process. We will define a workflow and document SOPs, standard operating procedures, and the RACI for each stage of the workflow. And I'm going to paste this. Whoops. We have an agent or custom GPT that I built. I'm going to share this in the chat with you too. This is our workflow and SOP creator. This custom agent has probably 8 pages of information and instructions behind it to give good workflow and SOP outputs. And you're more than welcome to play with it. It's pretty cool because it will even define the RACI for you, even if you don't give it. And RACI is who's responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed about that project, step in the project. And because it's really important to know the humans involved, the technology involved, and the process involved. And Ben and I were talking about this the other night. When you have these workflows defined and really well documented, then you can hand off these SOPs to AI to build the things for you or to do the tasks for you. And you'll need to know where you're going to send your information, who you're going to send it to, where your stopping points are. So first, we're going to look at we outline a workflow, we document the SOP, and maybe we have an SOP and we re-look at it with the lens of AI. And just now we've been going through all of our automations and revising them again because there are new tools we're using, new capabilities, and we think we can shortcut some of these processes even more and make them better, more efficient. And so we define those for each stage of the workflow, and then we design. So we pick one part of the workflow that we want to address. And the thing that we pick may be something that is really easy to build and really quick. So we decide to do that. It might be the thing that disrupts the least amount of people internally and externally. Or it might be the thing that I don't know, that's going to make us the most money. Like we have different determining factors. Like in November, we were challenged by one of our clients. They said, we want you to be able to handle 100 enterprise clients concurrently for training every month. So that meant we had to onboard 100 clients every month and intake them into the LMS. We would have this whole process. So we looked at, I'm going to scroll ahead here. We broke down the process. Here we go. And it's 20 steps from onboarding all the way through to completions and reporting. And then we look at each one of these steps and we will turn it into an SOP. We name the technology that we have and maybe the technology that we want to use in that step. And then we look at the places where we may want a human involved and we'll need to have a stopping point for this information that's getting sent around. There's some things in here like we need a human on step 8 to review this employee survey. And we will never have AI do that step. AI could do that step. In a different context, we're playing with that, but this is somewhere where we want human discernment involved. And so we'll create these different points for the different tasks to be done and decide what technology needs to be used, what technology do we think will work, and who needs to be informed, consulted, who's responsible for this. All right, I'm going to go back up. And out of those 20 items, we would pick one piece of it and we address that particular piece and that SOP and we get it down. And we'll then we take that piece and we'll develop the connections and the instructions and make sure that all the stop points are in there where it needs to get connected to humans. And then we deploy it, and we'll deploy it as in a testing scenario first. Well, sometimes we deploy it publicly really quick and have mistakes and like learn from other people's interactions with what we build. We did that recently in February, just a couple weeks ago, if that, a week and a half, with something new that we built and we were trying out. And then we test the results, see how that it's going. We tune it, test, tune. And you don't want to leave these things alone. You definitely want to check in on them, check in on the automations and make sure that they are consistently good. Because if you have anything like ChatGPT tied into an automation or Jasper, as the tools get updated, your results can change. So we have an SOP for our newsletter, and this was a 20 plus step process to do a newsletter. And it would involve AI and automation. And then one day AI was ready to take the entire SOP as it was without much human involvement. So Marikar says go for the newsletter and it produces the newsletter, but this time the output of it was different. It's been working well in this context for probably 4 or 5 months. And just this last time, it changed the output without us changing the instructions. And so we need to now go back and see, and we need to go back and test it and change our instructions because something about the AI model changed. And so you need to keep an eye on these. You still need to have a human in the loop when you're doing anything with automations, or if you've created agents on different platforms.
So just to kind of, can you go back?
Yep.
Just to make sure, would you say that these agents are basically like junior employees that need to be watched and trained and supported? I mean, like, like trust but verify type of thing on
Yeah.
an ongoing basis?
Yeah, I would say that. Yes.
And just for my own sake, RACI is so we have to for the workflow when we're designing it, for each of the steps, it's important to say who's going to be responsible, who's going to be accountable, who's going to be consulted, and who's going to be informed. Why? Is that part of like when you're developing the agent that you would do something like that? Or that you would need something like that?
Yeah, you want to, well, if you're doing a whole AI and automation sequence, and this could be the agent, like your agent may be involved in this, or your agent might be executing on this whole thing. There are certain things that like Andrea would need to review. There are certain things that I might need to be consulted on, but Markar is ultimately responsible.
Hmm.
And so if
So in when
AI,
you're designing the workflow, when you're putting the agent together, you're gonna say like, okay, you got to send this to Nicole for review before moving on. So it's part of that process you're
yes.
developing that you have to, okay.
Yeah, so Emma so we're using ClickUp, let's say, and Emma, like this process it goes into ClickUp in a draft, it creates a task for Emma to do, or Emma just looks at it and is like, okay, this is where it is, because she's our project manager, so she knows, like, then she's keeping track of the project, so she might just be informed about it and then can let us know like, hey, where are you on this thing on the next day, because she's seen it show up in her task list. And then for the newsletter, Markar starts the process, I review it, and then I message back to her when I'm done. And so while this agent does a good portion of the work that used to take like 2 days to do, we can get our work done in maybe an hour, 90 minutes, something like that now. Um, but I always want to review it. So Mark is still responsible. I would be consulted. Um, and I'm going to review or maybe I'm accountable. I don't know. But with this
Yeah.
one,
I guess at the very least, even if you don't build an agent, if you're creating the workflow and defining all the racy people, that kind of
yeah,
helps your business anyway.
it does.
Because you know who's got to do what. So
I think
yeah.
it's also important, Ben, to note that what we're talking about as far as a workflow automation is different than an agent. You could build an agent to run the workflow automation, but what we're defining and designing is the workflow, not necessarily the agent. So, yes, you can build an agent to run your workflow, but when we're thinking about um, the define, design, and all the steps, we're thinking about the entire workflow, regardless of who or what is going to make that workflow happen. So try to come
Yeah.
back away from the agent just a little bit because it is different. Um,
Yeah. And
this
then you pick
workflow
the
could live
agents.
inside an agent,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the workflow and automation itself is like the entire path. So it's like the directions or all the steps, like Nicole's talking about the newsletter, is a simple version of this, but that 20-step process, each step of that process has directions underneath it.
Yeah.
So if each one of those things were an agent, basically, you'd have 20 agents completing the automation, and that's
Right.
really what we're looking at. So I just
Awesome.
wanted to say that because I don't want agent
Yeah.
to get confused with what we're this other picture of a workflow automation that we want to create and get
Yeah.
people to deploy.
That makes sense. Like you, so agent would be one part of it. You might decide, okay, an agent is going to be that part, but you've got to have the full picture first.
Yeah,
So understood. Got it. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Andrea. That
Mhm.
was well articulated.
Thanks.
Because the SOPs really do turn into the instructions for the agents. And so then in that 20-step process, one of those SOPs, an agent might take, and then, we have the human over here. And so you can have that whole workflow. So we like to look at an entire workflow. And it could be like client onboarding, it could be creating a strategy and then define all the different pieces in there. And again, you may just pick one step that you know is an easy one to automate. So this is this is a flow that's really simplified. One of the problems, so this is in January, I said that we've got a lot of leads coming in and they're falling out of the top of the funnel. And we need to get them nurtured and followed up with. And so I said, I really need help with this because I'm having conversations with people outside of our CRM. I'm having conversations with people at events that I'm speaking at or presenting, facilitating. I'm having conversations with people who are on WhatsApp, on Facebook Messenger, on LinkedIn, wherever they can get a hold of me. I've got all these different places. And so what I wanted was something to help me capture these people, capture the leads, because I hate not following up with people if I told them I would. And it was just too many for me to keep track of because they were in so many different places. So now I can send them to a phone number and say, hey, will you please text this number with your first name, last name, email address, phone number, and what you need information about. So some of it was this marketing, your AI, your agency, and then they could get put into the right channel. So we have the chat bot that captures the info and collects the details, and they can do it on social channels, website visitors. I can put it up on a slide at a presentation and say, hey, text this number if you need any follow up. Um, and then that's in OS is the CRM that we use, and the chatbot's built into our CRM. And so then it funnels the visitors to the right pipeline categories. So they actually occur in our sales pipeline or our newsletter pipeline, and they get put into the right place because of the chatbot. And then the Slack notification goes to the team if there's a sales lead, somebody that needs a discovery call, because not all people need a follow-up like that. Some people just need to be added to like this mastermind session or labs or, whatever thing that they came to see. But if there's someone who needs a meeting, then it can go in there, or um, we've done this before and we need to do it again. We just don't have the support at the moment. Is they get sent a calendar link to book a discovery call, and there we'll talk about the issues. Now we do have a discovery bot, and so we can kind of suss out the information. The notes get added to the person's file in our CRM. So if the person has a good conversation with the chatbot, we'll have more information, which is our preference, is to get as much information as we can ahead of time so we know the context of the conversation or how we can serve them best. And then, yeah, so then they'll get a follow-up email from the system saying, thanks for inquiring about, depends on the pipeline, which email gets sent out. And it could be you're registered for Mastermind, you're registered for AI, your agency, or it could be the automated message that says, hey, book your discovery call here. Depending on where the bot and CRM, like where it sorts them in. And this is some of the stuff that will show the back end, the inside of the system. I just don't want to do that on a recorded call because it's our actual people in there. um, and we have this pipeline set up, and as people move through the pipeline, they receive messages based on where they are in the process also. So we try to automate communication because for me, I want everybody to feel cared about when they come into our environment. And I don't want that to depend on me remembering to message them back. I want them to have automated systems of care so that people do feel like we're there, we're paying attention, we care about their needs, and we're here and we can deliver something, that will satisfy their needs, like the webinar today. For proposals, this is kind of a fun one. We're actually in the process of revising, looking at this again, because I think we can do it faster with ChatGPT operator, or like with less steps with that. But right now we can send the notes from Read AI into ChatGPT. ChatGPT can grab all the customer information, and then use the proposal template, write the proposal, send it to OS, which is our CRM system, and then we have a human review it there. So it gets marked as a draft. And then human Andrea or human Nicole will look at the proposal and make sure it's accurate. Because, and then we send it out so we can check yes. And we still have to manually create the invoice. So when a proposal goes out, the client signs it. This all lives within our CRM system, by the way. Client signs it, and then they're auto sent an invoice after so it's a combination of AI and automation. And then they'll get a follow-up email, which is next steps. And it's either a link to book their strategy session, which is a 2-hour Zoom. And then they'll get sent their think sheet, which is a really long intake form. We try to get as much information as we can on the think sheet. And then if they're not going that path, they'll get other instructions if no appointment is necessary. So it could be going into a course, and then they'll get a different automation that way, which Ben, I think you guys have probably received some of those emails about, hey, you're registered, and then you start getting all the invites, calendar invites, and SMS reminders and all of that. And so we just try to make it as smooth as possible for the customer. We really want to give people that smooth experience that's seamless and consistent. And then one of the things that we're going to be adding into the proposals is when ChatGPT takes it, because web search is enabled on there, they can go to the client's LinkedIn page and business website and grab information to create the custom voice and mention language that would resonate with that client. So that's kind of the upgrade that we're going to be testing in this process so that it can be more personalized. Does anybody have questions about proposal process?
So I guess one question that comes to mind, I'm the question asker. I don't know what again. But is okay, so you've been starting to do that, and you said, when you're building these workflows and you start to automate, there's time, you have to review, you have to make sure, and you have to like improve it, right? So what are some of the issues with this particular automation that you found and that you've had to improve, and what did you have to improve to make it work better for you?
Well, AI is pretty good at proposals.
Mm.
As long as you have a template, I would say our improvement on this one is to have it sound more personalized. And so that would be um, adding the links to the document uh, and adding the links so that AI can get it. Andrea, did you?
Yeah, I wanted to say for me, the hardest part of any of this is not the actual automation itself. It's being totally clear about your services, offerings, and how you actually want to communicate. So that could be setting prices for services and what that actually includes. But that that part, which is that SOP section, that the define section and design section, both, that's the hardest part, I find, because you have to be clear, or no matter what you use, it's not going to be clear. So just like in the course, when you use AI, anybody can get a result and an output, but to get a good one, you have to be really clear with your instructions, give it context, give it your voice, all of those things. And to me, that's the biggest challenge, is making sure you're clear enough, because all that info for most of us lives in our head, right? But we don't necessarily write it out as instructions. And that's why that beginning part of this 4-step process is so important. Not only who needs to do it, but what needs to be done and at what pace and at what step. And that's the part. Otherwise, the only issue you'll have between here is if Slack gets some sort of update and it no longer sends a notification, or same thing with ChatGPT or Zapier or any of them. And that will happen. Like, we've seen how many versions even of ChatGPT there have been already. So I think you'll have less issues there than the actual defining of what it is that you do or want to put out there and how you want to respond to people.
Back
Mm.
to prompt engineering being the
Yep,
the source of everything. Okay.
it is. And so that responsibility, a lot of it lies with me. I'm accountable. Emma's sort of, I think, the responsible one on this one, but I'm accountable. So I have to say what the items are, how much we're charging for them. And I just remembered a new product that we sell. I had 2 inquiries for it over the weekend. And and by product, like it's service, but I had not even considered it when we were going over our price list again. Because we hadn't had that inquiry for a little bit, but it's doing forum presentations for EO. And so I got 2 of those inquiries. I was like, oh yes, this is a thing we do too. So we need to add that to this, to the price list and what that process looks like. Because that's actually a really simple process. It's a checkout page and then they get, but we have to gather everybody's information from the forum. We need each member's name, business name, because I want to make a presentation that's custom for them. And so that actually turns into a different type of process in here. So we'll get to a certain point, but it actually goes a different place um, because it's a different product and requires a different automation. And those are the things that we've discovered along the way as we're doing this, because we can create SOPs. And this really brings your SOPs to life instead of them sitting in a folder on some hard drive in the cloud. Um, and then you find those little gaps and you go in and figure out. But I think each time we go through this, like doing the forum process, we collaboratively we came up with a really smooth, easier, more efficient process that I think will give better results. Because we always are asking ourselves too, like, how can we provide more magic to our clients and have it not take any more time, but it's because of how we know how to use AI. So how can we deliver more magic and how can we save more time?
Can I add something in, Nicole, really, really quickly, of like a
Yeah.
just a heads up, and like this is also, I guess, kind of a plug for next week's like lab about Zapier, because it's going to go in a little bit more. But I think with Zapier being such a big tool to connect, because not everything can happen in one tool, the biggest hurdle I have seen with us and other companies using it is the formatting of the information coming out of the AI tool, and then how making sure the format from one tool to the next tool matches, and that the information can be trimmed or converted in the right way. So like if you like, this is like such a common one and it's so silly, but if you have a full versus a first and a last name, so like we had that with forms, like can you break it up? Can the automation do that so it's not a manual data entry? Or like for the proposal piece, where do we need the breaks of information to happen to plug into the right part of each proposal or offer to match it? So like it'll spit it out, but then formatting that data to speak to the next tool, I think would be a hard, or not, it's one of the more tricky. You have to go back and test a couple of times to get it right as you're doing it.
Yeah, because some of the things like what the API says that it can do, like the ingredients in the recipe, like the way that each one of us would bake it is going to turn out different. So Talkadot is a tool we use. When I go speak at an event, I put the QR code up and people do a survey and they tell me how I did on the engagement. And then if they need follow-up, that's also taken in there. So Talkadot has a series of questions that it typically asks. Well, I want any comments to go directly into the customer file in OS, but the way that we found it pulling in, it had a branch in the chain of questions that it asked, and we only got one branch, but we didn't know it until after we tested it. And then we're like, we looked in Talkadot natively, it's like, oh, there's this big bit of information that was missing. And so then we have to see if that information is available from the API, first of all, because sometimes it's not. And if it's not, then we need to have it in our process that, yes, we have this person in a card on our pipeline, but we know that it came from Talkadot. So we need to go back and verify like the full details of it. So there are some of those things where you find like what information is available, how it's formatted, and it does take testing it to figure it out.
Would you say, I mean, this brings up another question is, okay, so you guys have these processes that workflows that you've built, and then from there you've built this automation with agents that are connecting through Zapier to multiple systems with data being off. At some point, at what point does one decide, I need professional help here, or I need a programmer to come in and like help me figure this out? Like or have you guys done all of this yourself?
We've done all of it ourselves. I mean, Emma is probably the most technical. I don't know. Andrea's technical on different things. I'd say I'm the least technical person, but I have an idea of how I want it to work. And then we have to figure that out. So one thing, show up on these sessions because we can shortcut it for you. And then, you can hire our team. We can recommend a tech team depending on how complicated it is. We have other tech partners that have different specialties, but also people on your team, if they can get the instructions right, the SOP right, the RACI, like SOP with RACI and the tools you're currently using, and then you bring somebody in, that's going to be the most efficient use of your internal resources and external. Because an external consultant can ask you all the questions, but really you're the experts on your process. And then the expert could come in and say, oh, I see where we could shortcut things here and here. Do you need to do these steps? And they might question it. But the more you can come prepared with really good workflow and SOP, because you know your business, you're going to save so much time and money when you bring that outside resources in. So
That's
when when you get to a stuck point, I mean, you know me, Ben, you can message me, but sometimes it might be a more like time consuming, conversation. And then you
yeah.
need to bring someone in. And that's where you can learn from the people that are doing this, like us. We've been doing AI and automation stuff, especially automations, for a very long time. Um, I mean, 20 years for me, as much as possible. And AI added into the mix since 2015. So we can probably, shortcut your learning on this stuff.
Sounds
Um,
good.
This one, the 12-month marketing strategy and plan, I love this one so much. This has been a huge, huge, huge time saver. So this process would have been 6 to 8 weeks to create a 12-month marketing strategy with a plan that is month by month, tactic by tactic, how much time everything takes, what social networks you're doing, what trade shows you're going to, awards you're going to apply for, like everything in a whole marketing strategy. Now we can do that. And we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and we refine this process pretty, like every time we do a strategy, we ask, how can we add more magic and how can we save more time? And that's what I like about our little team. Everybody's open to it. Like we're committed to giving the customer a really good experience, but we're not married to our process. We're married to this, we're committed to having a good experience and a good outcome. And we're really flexible and we want to do things more efficiently. So in this process to get the marketing strategy, where we were here, we sent them the think sheet and then they book their strategy session. So then in the strategy session, we use Read AI for our notes because that's the one we like the best for our AI note taker. And we have the think sheet, which is a simple Google Doc. And we use that for the agenda of our meeting. And in our think sheet, it has a bunch of questions that we ask them. And we apply this same thing to AI strategies. So we do the marketing strategies, we've done them for years. And then we started doing AI strategies and we take the same process and apply it to something else. So whatever your business is, like this will work. I mean, this can definitely work for you too. But we take the transcript, the Google Think sheet, and in the 2-hour conversation, we go through the think sheet. We know people can't answer all the questions in there. So we'll spend time talking about the things that maybe weren't so clear or weren't answered. And then we take a completed think sheet. We take the transcript from the call, and then we upload it to the Jasper knowledge base. And Jasper is an AI tool that is built for marketing. It's trained and built for marketing. It uses 12 different LLMs at least below the surface, and it's trained on marketing information. And then we create the strategy in Jasper and we bring in probably close to 5 pieces of knowledge. We have prior strategies that we use as a template. We have the transcript from the Zoom call. We have the Google Think sheet, probably style guide, voice. And we want it to be in the customer voice. So we have probably create the customer voice in here for them. And then we produce the strategy and it's in a doc format, and then we have humans review it. But this process, because we have all that knowledge, takes minutes. If minutes, I don't know, Andrea, if it takes like 2 minutes to do.
I'd
Because
say like the first round takes maybe half hour or less. Only if you just set it and it's automated, it can go, of course, really quickly. But checking through the human checking part, of course,
yeah,
takes some more time. But I think we get it down to, days instead of weeks for sure, the entire process, which means like the presentation made for the client, the implementation calendar, the entire thing in days instead of the 68 weeks. So
yeah. And so then we give 2 weeks. We tell them we'll have it back to them in 2 weeks. And so part of the automation too is that when they book their first meeting with us, they book another one 2 weeks later for the presentation. And so it does, like, Andrea looks over it. I'm gonna look over it too because I care what touches the customer. And so by that, like, that's what we choose to do. We could probably just send it to them and it'd be fine. But it goes from Jasper to Gamma. Gamma is the product I'm using right now, the AI tool to do this deck. And we put it into Gamma. Gamma's formatting of the information is not going to be spot on. That's going to need editing. So that's a place that we polish it up by humans, but it's so much faster than if you dumped it into Canva or any of the others. Like, it's just, it generates the deck really quickly for you. And then we do the strategy presentation on the Zoom. And what we have added to our strategies, because we can with AI, we have that 12-month calendar that's in a spreadsheet. And then we also have, we give them brand story, like story brand elements. So we give them their 10 headlines, 10 taglines. We give them elevator pitches, 2 150-word elevator pitches in the story brand format and 2 50-word elevator pitches. We used to pay somebody to do the story brand process for every client, but now we can just use AI for that and it gives us really good results. And then we also give them creative strategies. So we'll give them 3 creative campaign ideas and everything they need to do to execute it. And so we tell them, we're like, you can walk away with this marketing strategy package if you want to and go execute it on your own, but it's a lot. So, usually we end up doing it. And we can give them, like, we can just deliver so much more and it doesn't take us more time. And we'll have to think of what other magic we can add to it, but the strategies are pretty awesome. And we'll show you the inside of all that process and what the strategies look like and outputs and everything if you want to join the class in April. Let's keep going. Okay, blog automation. I want to pause for a minute because I think everybody's probably done some of the content automation. Like, that's not as new probably. But does anybody have any questions at this point?
I have a question, Nicole.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm on my phone, so if this
That's
is
okay.
funky. With Jasper, I think I've mentioned before, I've used Jasper, but in pre-ChatGPT days.
Yep.
I'm not using it now, and maybe this is a conversation for later even, but I'm really curious about the, like, how you would do this if you didn't have access to Jasper, like how you would maybe utilize chat for this, or explain to me why that's stupid and we should just be paying for Jasper. You know?
I mean, it depends how often you need to do marketing things. Jasper just does better copy because it's designed to do marketing outputs. You can use ChatGPT and create some custom GPTs or agents in there. And Jasper, the reason that we have stuck with it, because we were using it pre-ChatGPT too. We've been using it since 2020. And the thing that they are really good at now is being collaborative. So when we create a new, let's say we have a Phoenix TS group on there or a special account, then we can share that information for the client all inside of their little special environment. We can have, for us, we have multiple voices in there. You could have your executive voices in there and just create a lot of content. That way it has, so Markar creates something, she can share it with me. It's probably one of the most collaborative AI tools that we use because you can share custom GPTs, but it's not a real collaborative environment. You can't edit each other's things and keep going. You can't share chats and edit and share and see the edits unless you just like keep resharing the link. So the collaborative nature of Jasper for us is really important. And if you have a marketing team of even 2 or 3 people and that you can keep everything in there, it's so good for organization and collaboration. Andrea, were you going to say something
Yeah,
about?
I wanted to add too that not only are the outputs better because it is for marketing, it also is trained to know as a marketer, like what insights you're going to want and what to ask you next. It's really good at customer insights, audience, researching all of those things about your specific business, or if you're doing it for someone else, that's the extra. You'll never get, I don't think you'll ever get what we get out of Jasper in ChatGPT, at least not in, it would take you a lot of steps because ChatGPT is trained on everything. Jasper is sole focus is marketing, and that's all it thinks about. So it knows when you're asking a question that you have marketing in mind, and then it's going to tell you, hey, oh, I noticed you were thinking of a product that was for 20 something year old females. Well, here's this other thing also that you may not know that would be relevant. And it's really good at pointing you in those marketing strategy directions. So I don't think you'll, I think you could get a basic little, okay, I have this webinar and I want people to register for it. Help me create a strategy to do that. I have 4 weeks and ChatGPT can say, okay, send out an email on this day, send out some text, add people to a landing page or whatever it is. But the actual content for all those things and the bigger picture, I would still do that in Jasper.
Yeah, and you also have your knowledge base in Jasper. So if it's a webinar on these things and it's something we've done before, I just grab a piece of knowledge and then I have my voice applied to it and it does it with that knowledge with my voice. And so you have your own custom RAG, which is what they call a custom knowledge base, but Jasper has that. You can have all the information about all your product and service offerings. So you just pull in the piece of knowledge to any of the outputs that you're going to do. You can do that for press releases. You could do that for all your social. And so it's very well organized for a marketing department. And you can get like the more junior versions of Jasper, not the enterprise one. I think it's $69 a month or something. It's not that much for how good it is and the time it can save you. And it is so much different than the early Jasper. And Ellie will get into it. Usually we do a lab on Wednesday where we go deep into Jasper and show you more the things that we do in there. Yeah. We could go all day on Jasper. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
Mhm. And
No,
there
this
is
is
a
really good.
question about images in Jasper too.
Okay, Ellie, sorry, Ellie, what was that?
No, I was just saying, what did you say about Wednesday mornings?
Oh, Wednesday labs. Like this session,
Oh, okay, okay.
we'll do a session on Jasper on one of the Wednesdays too. And if you have questions when we're going through stuff in class, we can show how to do the stuff in Jasper as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Jasper for images is improving. We typically don't use it. We use image generation tools. What was the question specifically, Andrea?
How is Jasper for images and
Oh,
design?
okay. I'd say it's okay.
It will create images, but like Nicole's saying, it's not an image generation tool. You know, if you want, you can use it. And I think it's Dolly, and I can't remember, oh, Flux,
Flux.
and there's a
Yeah.
few of them now that it's connected to. So it's as good as any of those tools because it's connected to them. We use Midjourney if we need something super specific, photorealistic. We use Leonardo. But all of those things can be built into your automation. Not necessarily, there is, and I know nobody wants to hear this, there is no one tool that's going to do all your things. I'm sorry to inform you. I wish it weren't true, but it just is not there, at least not yet. And to be honest, I don't know. Would you want someone that's focused on marketing to be doing your sales or pricing or things like that? So in my mind, I'm like, everybody stays in their lane. If you need a quick image using it in Jasper, it's fine. Like if you don't care if it's a landscape or some representation of whatever, an apple, or it's fine. But if you need something specific, I need 3 females sitting around a conference room table in Seattle. Like that's where you go to Midjourney or Leonardo or some of the other ones.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Any other questions on creating strategies and plans with AI, this automation? Okay.
That's a good point too that Emma put in the chat. Jasper has better Zapier integrations to
Mhm.
run the prompts and specific types of content.
And she would know. I don't know that part. Okay. I just want to, we don't have that much time that we've taken up a lot of time. I just wanted to share kind of my favorites. Okay. Let's go to, oh, I don't know why it says Otter. It should say Read. We've used Otter, so that's probably why it says Otter. But one of the things that we're doing, well, there's some tools that we're testing for this. Everybody's got their note takers in here. There's a pile of them. But then what do you do with the notes afterwards? That's the important thing. And there's a new tool that I have been testing for the last 2 weeks. I actually just signed up, and it's called Hoop, Hoop AI. And Hoop will give me, it goes into, so this is one possible thing, but this will probably get scrapped. This is a way that you can do it. You can have it go from your note taker to and get the summary of the descript and get the action items for everybody. Like a lot of them do the action items anyways, key takeaways, and then go to Slack, and then you can take it into or go straight into ClickUp or whatever project management tool you use. If you use Asana or any of those, most of them you can push to. So you can take those items and you can push them. Some of them have native integrations between the AI note taker and whatever your project management tool is. And I wanted to show you Hoop real quick because it's really simple. And I had tried it out last year, but I wasn't really impressed with what it did. But this year I tried it again, and so far I'm loving it because I like to have a to-do list that's pretty simple. And it has all these incoming notes, and then I'll review these, but I might check them off if I already did these tasks, and I can just drag and drop for me, for my assistant, for the team to do. And the more team members you add, it actually will like auto populate the different columns. So what Emma's looking for is, okay, if it's in here and she manages her list in ClickUp, can we take it from here to ClickUp? And I have used a number of different task management methods and tools. For me, straight checklists are usually the best of the things that I need to do. So, and it takes it from my email, it takes it from Slack, and it takes it um from Zoom calls. And it has a desktop app, so I can actually start it without anybody on the meeting seeing. And it starts to create a task list. So I can actually start it when I'm on a phone call too. And this icon with the little swirlies is me using the desktop version. You can see the AI Smart Office Hours. It shows the little Zoom icon because that's where that task came from. And this came from email. So you can also just like very visually see it plugs into Outlook, which not many do for organizing emails, but it plugs into the whole Microsoft environment too. Um, and they have a 7-day free trial. So that is something that we're testing out as just how to keep track of all the to-dos, because it seems like it is just a never-ending list. And I want to make it more manageable. And also something that's really important for us is teamwork, and that we can do these things in teams and be collaborative with the tools that we choose. All right. We are at time, but I'll stick around for a little bit. If anybody has questions, if you want to do the course, so we just put together like a quick little AI Your Agency course so we can help you do this. We're going to run it in April. I don't know if we'll do it again, but there are so many people that we need to get caught up on AIing the agencies because this is so much manual work that tends to happen. We want to help you with this process. And it's the define, design, develop, and deploy. So in there, we'll define workflows, design SOPs, map out the workflows, and help you connect your tech stack and deploy and refine your automations, agents, whatever you decide to work on. But then we help you in that process. So there's a little information on that if you're interested. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Nicole. We have to jump on another one.
Okay. All right. Thanks for coming. It was nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice seeing you.
Hey, Samachi, you're welcome.
Nicole, I just had a quick question. It's Cheris, and I was going back to Hoop and the to-dos.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I had like so much anxiety about like jumping into AI, and I feel like you guys have really helped me understand so much more. But the anxiety that comes up now is I'll turn on my camera, is that it's gonna miss something. And so, you know, we keep talking about like the source of truth, right? So it still requires so much of human. And so I don't know if you can really answer this, but like the trust that you have, just specifically like with Hoop, and I know you're testing it out, so maybe you can't talk to that. But for to-do specifically, do you feel like it's been pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Okay.
It's been so good.
That gives me peace of mind.
Yeah, that's why I paid for the subscription because it did such a good job at grabbing things even from my inbox that I needed to do.
That's what alerted me when you said that. I was like, whoa.
To not have to check my email all the time, right?
I feel like it's a video game versus, you know, seeing it very clearly documented.
Yeah.
And
Alan,
then the joy of checking things off, right?
some people find joy in that. Yes.
The small things in life I take joy in.
Yeah.
So, okay. But still,
Alan,
for all of the tools, it seems like it still requires, I mean, because we care, right? I mean, I know that that's part of it, but it still is a human source of truth throughout the process.
yeah. Yeah. But I can go through my email just once in a day and feel good about it.
Okay. Well, that gives me peace of mind. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Alan.
Hey, Nicole, nice to meet you. You know, part of our role running agencies is part-time firefighter. And so I apologize, I got here a bit late. But I'm curious to know if you're going to, I saw that this was being recorded. Are you going to repost it or can we go to your website and find it? Just to get up to speed?
Yeah, if you registered for this with the form online, we'll let you know when it's up. But it'll be on YouTube. We'll post this on YouTube.
You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. Oh, and Marakar posted our YouTube channel in the chat as well. Any other questions? Comments? No? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming today. Alan, did you have any specific questions?
Not at this point. I'm using AI a fair amount, but there's always things.
Yeah. There's always more to do. Well, thank you for showing up, and you'll get the recording pretty
Yes.
quickly.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Nicole. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, Nicole.
You're
Good to see
welcome.
you.
Nice to see you, Ned. We saw the sun
Sure.
setting on you over there.
I know. I'm sure I'll be in that class.
That would be fun.
Yes, Andrea. Yes, absolutely. Miss you guys.
Yeah, we miss you too.
Thank you.
Thanks. almost.